All right. In light of the fires that happened in British Columbia over the summer, and also in light of the floods that happened in New York in the early fall, I decided that I needed to be prepared for what may happen. I'm in Toronto. I decided I needed to be prepared for what might happen here. And then just decided to share what I have learned through Cyber Seniors and anyone else who will listen, because it seems like a really good idea just to get ready for emergencies that seem to be, because of climate change, more and more likely to happen. So the idea here is how to keep you and your loved ones ready to either stay where you are in the case of an emergency, or if you have to leave your home in case of an emergency. The objectives of the presentation are to learn what's involved in making an emergency plan, what's involved in putting together an emergency kit if you have to stay at home for a number of days without power or water, what's involved in putting together a grab-and-go bag if you are forced to evacuate, and then how to maintain these items, the plan, the kit, and the grab-and-go bag, so that they're always top-notch and ready. So, the emergency plan, the purpose of the plan is so that you have written down and ready to go what you will do in case of an emergency, whether it be something that happens just in your home, something that happens in your community that requires you to stay in place or requires you to leave. What is presented in this webinar under this plan is all-encompassing and might not be relevant for every household. So just pull out the pieces of it that are relevant for your household. And the third thing about the emergency plan is that ideally one has 3 copies of it. You will have a copy of it on its own. You'll have a copy of it that stays with your emergency kit, your shelter-in-place kit, and you have a copy of it that goes with your grab-and-go bag. So there are 9 components to it, and I'll just take us through each piece. First is being aware of the exits in your home. So assuming, and this runs the gamut, you live in a house and there are 2 exits from each room. You live in a house where there's at least 2 exits from the house. You live in an apartment where if it's on a ground floor, there are 2 exits from the unit, or you live in an apartment or a condo, and there are at least 2 exits from the building. So being aware of where those are. Second is if you have a number of people in your household, you have a designated safe meeting place in case you get separated. If there are children in the household, you've designated someone to be the emergency pickup person if the emergency happens during school hours. So it's your children, you're looking after children in whatever capacity children may need to be cared for. And then in addition to that, making sure that the school has the most up-to-date contact information. The out-of-town contact person is a key part of your emergency plan. This is someone who is trusted and they live in a different area from you so that they would not be subject to the same emergency. And they have 3 purposes. The first is to be the individual that helps you keep track of each other if you get separated. So there's an emergency, not everybody's together, or you want to let other family members know that you're okay, but you don't have access to a telephone or a computer to do that, your loved ones can contact the out of town contact person to know that you're okay. Does that make sense? The second reason why the out of town person is really important is that you provide them with a copy of relevant health information, which is the next heading down, which I'll go through in more detail. And third is that they're also provided with copies of important documents so that if things get destroyed in whatever manner, the information is accessible and complete via your out of town contact person who hasn't been affected by the emergency. Health information, write down and give a copy of this to your contact person, the medical conditions, allergies, surgeries, medications, medical histories, insurance information, family doctor information. Have that written down as a part of your emergency plan and a copy given to your contact person. And the same with important documents. So, copies of birth certificate, marriage certificate, passport, license, wills, deeds, insurance information, a copy, there's a lot of copies, a copy with your emergency plan and a copy with your contact person or in some other safe place. From just sort of going through emergency planning over and over again, it seems to me, and this is just my thought of it, that the best person to have all of this information is the contact person. It does recommend, there is a recommendation to put copies of this stuff in a safe deposit box, but if you can't get to the safe deposit box, you want to have it with somebody who is not going to be involved. So giving it to the your contact person. All right. If there are pets in the household, the best way to protect a pet or pets is to take them with you. However, this does require some pre-planning, as not all shelters where you would be given an option to go to allow pets. So having a sense ahead of time of where you can go if you're forced to leave your home for a number of days where pets are allowed is a good idea. And the other thing to do, which I'm doing, so you take it or leave it, but especially if you have cats, train your cats to get into the carrier, cat or cats to get, or pets, cats, dogs, whoever, training them to get into the carrier quickly and easily in case you have to move fast. Being aware of the different types of emergencies that could happen in your area is really helpful so that things won't take you by surprise. Is it a hurricane? Is it earthquake? Is it fire? Is it floods? What's most likely to happen in the region where you live? And then finally, for emergencies just within your home, particularly fire, making sure that you've got a working smoke detector, making sure that you have and know how to use a fire extinguisher. If you are in an apartment or a condo, knowing where the fire alarms are located. And finally, if you do have to leave quickly, knowing where and how to use water valves, gas valves, electrical boxes to keep your home as safe as possible when you're not there. Okay. So to summarize, the plan, there are 3 copies. One for the plan itself, one in your shelter in place emergency kit, one in your grab and go bag. And the purpose of the plan is so that you have written down and you'll know what to do in case an emergency happens and you have to leave your home quickly or shelter in place for a while. All righty. Okay, the shelter in place kit. So the purpose of a shelter-in-place emergency kit is to enable you and the members of your household to live safely without power or water for 3 to 7 days. The idea is that you have a complete, a contained, protected, and easy to get to set of supplies in case there's a sudden loss of power and or water. So you can put the supplies in a couple of duffel bags or a couple of those big blue Tupperwares. What I have done is I have my shelter in place kit. I have taken over a kitchen cupboard, and everything dedicated to the shelter in place kit is in that kitchen cupboard. But you can dedicate any space to the contents or bags or boxes of your emergency shelter-in-place kit. Okay, so what do you need in it to survive 3 to 7 days without power or water? Are first food, canned food, and with a manual can opener. You've got the food and the way to access the food. Utensils also. Water, 4 liters of water per person per day for drinking and sanitation. A phone charger and a portable power bank, which is like a great big huge battery for your cell phone, so that you can just plug your cell phone into the charger and it will still work if the phone needs charging. Rather than plugging it into the wall, you plug it into the power bank. Having a radio that is either battery powered or a hand crank radio, and same having a battery powered or hand crank flashlight, and then some extra batteries. Not heaps and heaps of extra batteries, because we recommend switching them out every 6 months, so some extra batteries. We want to have first aid supplies and a supply of our medications. When we come to maintenance of the emergency kit and the grab and go kit, I'll go over a method to keep those medications current, but in an effort to stay complete and so that there's no scrambling around the house in case of needing to shelter in place, you want a small supply of your daily medications with your shelter in place kit. Also having a complete set of toiletries, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, glasses or contact lenses in your emergency kit. Here's your second copy of your emergency plan, which will contain this sort of 3 pretty key things, being your contact person, copies of your health information, and copies of important documents. Just in case you lose access to that within your home, you've got it, again, in your plan, and you've given it to your contact person. Cash and small bills. If power goes out, we cannot rely on debit cards and Visa cards, so cash and small bills. Garbage bags and moist towelettes for sanitation. And just in case we run out of batteries, or for whatever reason in the 6 months that we last checked the battery supply, it isn't working, or they exploded and got acid all over them, having some candles and matches. Seasonal clothing, which again, we will trade out in the maintenance part of looking after the shelter in place kit. An emergency blanket, they're just wonderful, and you can buy them at the hardware store. Masks, we all have billions of them, so a mask. A whistle for communication. Trying to rely on our voice can be too much. So a whistle, they're nice and loud, they can get people's attention, so that's why we want to have a whistle. And also some way that we can communicate with the outside world, either saying, look, I need help, or hey, I'm okay. That'll be very, very helpful for your community, for your neighbors, and also for emergency personnel who are going, from place to place, and they want to know who to go and look after first. So having a sign ready to go um, to indicate what your needs are in that shelter in place kit. So for pets, you want for your shelter in place kit for pets, again, a 3 to 7 day supply of food. When you're thinking about your supply of water, incorporate the supply of water for your pets. A pet requires about 30 mils of water, or about quarter cup, just over a quarter cup of water per kilogram of body weight, or in imperial terms, that's a quarter cup of water, just over a quarter cup of water for every 2 pounds of body weight of your pet. So adding that into your water supply. Litter, if it's a cat, poop bags for both, toys and treats, more copies, a copy of your veterinary history, and just in case your pets go missing, a picture of your pet, is how to make sure your pets are cared for in your emergency kit. Then we also want to have, because we're here without power, we want to have a source, and it may happen in the winter, or a cool time of year, a source of warmth and heat. You can buy things at the hardware store, but a buddy burner is an inexpensive and, if done properly, safe way. What we're trying to avoid is propane. So a buddy burner is a way to have a source of heat and a source of warmth. It's cheap, it's effective, and it's not propane based, which can be quite dangerous. So if we look at the middle picture, it's any 5-ounce can, tuna, cat food, whatever. You take cardboard, cut it in strips, the same depth as the can, roll those strips up tightly into the can. Then you take emergency candles, any kind of candles, absolutely anything. I used emergency candles because they're quite inexpensive at the hardware store. Melt them in a pot. Once they're melted, you pour them into the can that has the cardboard in it, and you leave a couple of pieces of cardboard up for a wick. And what you end up with is a very slow burning candle, basically. A slow burning, broad base of heat, and that then when you put a terracotta pot over top of, can become a source of either heat or warmth. To see it now written out versus having me say it, your 5-ounce tin cans, tuna fish, tuna fish, cat food, dog food, whatever, cardboard cut in strips, the candles, which you'll melt, and then terracotta pots. Cut the cardboard strips, roll them tightly into the can, leaving a little bit up for a wick, melt the candles, and pour it into the can. It's a little bit messy, so I recommend when you do this, do it somewhere. I think what I did was I put newspaper on the floor, because when I poured the wax into the tin cans, I did proceed to make a nice little mess. But if it was all on the newspaper or whatever I used, I can't remember, I just rolled up my mess and got rid of it. So to use the buddy burner for heat, so the picture on the left of the screen where the gal is rubbing her hands over top, you put the buddy burner on a flame-proof something or other, put the terracotta pot over top, leave the hole open. Heat will come out the top, the pot will heat up, heat will radiate out the sides. As a source for cooking, you're going to have to cover the hole on top like it shows in the picture. So you create the airflow underneath the terracotta pot You can use a cooling rack, the terracotta clay bases for plants. That's what I've used. But anything to raise the pot up a little bit, the buddy burners inside, put your pot on top, everything heats up, and you have your soup or your water for tea or porridge or whatever you need. So there's how you get your sources of warmth and cooking. So now I've talked about it. Now to see it written out, how to use it for heat is on a flame-proof base, terracotta pot over top, and just let it radiate out. For cooking, your air supply comes through the bottom, and then you put your pot on top to heat up whatever you need. Okay, and then next slide. All right, so before I talk about the grab and go bag, the summary of the shelter in place kit is to have it complete and contained in a protected, easy to access place so that you and your loved ones and pets, if you have them, can survive for 3 to 7 days without power and communicate with the neighborhood around you about whatever kind of assistance that you may need, either via your help or your I'm fine sign. Okay? All right. So the second piece, we've got our emergency kit. No, we've got our plan. We've got shelter in place. All right, what happens if we have to leave? If we have to leave immediately, we have a grab and go bag. And the purpose of the grab and go bag is to have supplies at the ready so that if the emergency personnel gives us 20 minutes to leave our home, we can do it, and we can do it confidently. So, if you have, if you're working or if you have a vehicle, having the grab and go bag at your home and in a vehicle and at a work site, that's great. And in the grab and go bag will be the third place that you have your emergency plan. What I have for my grab and go bag, because as we go through the list here, it's actually fairly comprehensive. I have mine in a wheeled suitcase because I'm taking what's in the bag and what I need for 2 cats. At any rate, so what goes into this so that we can be out of our homes and into a shelter and survive for however long we need to be in a shelter? Ready to eat food, so things like granola bars or dried fruit, stuff that's non-perishable. Non-perishable, decently high calorie, and yeah, non-perishable, high calorie, not candy, because it'll just go through our system like nothing. So dried fruit, nuts, granola bars, and other things that I'm sure you folk know a whole lot more than I do, that stuff that will last and keep you going. Water, as I come later through the slides, we'll look at how much water. Same thing, a phone charger and a power bank so that if you don't have access to plug something in the wall, you've got that battery bank with you. A small radio, either battery powered or hand crank. Flashlight, battery power or hand crank. Again, a small amount of extra batteries. Another small first aid kit. Another complete set of your personal medications. A complete set again of your toiletries, so you don't have to scramble. It's all there. You're going to just take your bag and leave, including an old pair of glasses, or if you want to, contact lenses. Your third copy of your emergency plan, which contains those important papers, those health papers, and the life and household papers. Again, cash in small bills. Power may be out. We mightn't be able to use a debit card or Visa. a map of the area, including a map if you have multiple members in your household and you have your designated safe area, um, that indicated on your, or your designated meeting place rather, that indicated on the map, seasonal clothing that gets switched out at maintenance, an emergency blanket, a pen and notepad so that you can keep recording information, and then a whistle, a way to continue to be able to communicate rather than your voice if needed. We want to have plenty of water. So again, 4 liters of water per person per day. That makes the bag pretty heavy. You can cut it back to 2 liters of water per person per day if you're going to just keep sanitation out of it. But if you want to, but then remember to include your pets if they're going with you, which is that 30 mils of water per kilogram of body weight, or quarter cup per 2 pounds of your pet. Okay. What we want to include for our pets, fairly similar to the shelter in place, which is the food, the water, supplies for the kitty. I have a little plastic, a little shallow pan, little plastic box that will serve as the kitty litter. I have a little bag of litter. I have my, um, I have my little scoop, and I have my little roll of poop bags. You know, I was able to make it all nice and small, and but I've got it all there, contained for the kitties. Hope to goodness I never have to use it, but I've got it. If you've got a dog, you've got your leash, you've got bags, you've got toys, treats, anything they need to be cared for. Paper towel and mild dish soap, or just a garbage bag and moist towelettes if there are any messes for your pet. Because moist towelettes may contain things that are the pet's skin might not be good for, that would be why you might want to go with a just a little tiny container of dish soap and a rag or a few paper towels, so that if there are messes in and around the pet, you can clean it up. And another copy of your vet history and pictures of your pet in case in your grab and going they go missing. All right. So, looking after the emergency plan and maintenance of these items. So, with respect to your plan, you can review it once a year if you want to, or you can just go through it every 6 months as you go through your shelter in place kit and your grab and go bag. For me, because I've got my plan 3 times, once as it is, once in my shelter in place kit, and once in my grab and go bag, I just incorporate it into the 6-month review. And the plan is just reviewed every 6 months, the same as the shelter in place kit and grab and go bag. So you want to check to make sure that the canned food is still edible, and you can either keep or switch out the water. Just have a perusal through those items to make sure that they're still looking usable for both you and your pets. The recommendation is to actually replace the batteries. So just keep a few extra in each kit so that you're only replacing a few. We don't need gobs and gobs of batteries because we don't know how long they're going to last. So just a few, and then switch them out every 6 months. You want to make sure that the power banks are charged up. You want to make sure that the charger cords are still working. And same with the radio and flashlight. We want to make sure that both of those are still working. Reviewing the copies of our important documents. That's a part of our emergency plan that is looked at every 6 months. Now, yes, we want to review this every 6 months, but the other time to review it, especially the plan, is if there is a significant change in status. So if you move, your contact person moves, there's a new major illness to be looked after, there's a new grandchild in the books, in the mix, there's a new pet. So every 6 months, or when there's some sort of significant change in your status or the status of the members of your household. And that is emergency preparedness. I relied heavily on the two resources that you see on the screen there. And there you go.